You can just put Max 1 up because they know who I am. Hopefully they're not just tuning in. Hello, welcome to WeatherWise. I am your host, meteorologist Nathan Scott. We are looking back to a wild weather week. It was March 31st all the way through April 6th, where we experienced flooding, tornadoes, and just a crazy week of weather here in the natural state. We knew it was coming. All the models were telling us, look out, trouble is brewing. But did we know that it would be this wild of a week? Well, we're going to break down pretty much what we saw tornado-wise and how everything came together, and also just the impressive amounts of rainfall we saw over the state. Let's take a look right now on what was evolving Wednesday when the Storm Prediction Center, who's in charge of issuing all the outlooks, was looking at 2 days before Wednesday arrived. That was April 2nd. We can take a look at Storm Track 11 now. This was the 2-day Storm Prediction Center outlook, and it had enhanced risk over most of the Ohio Valley and also Arkansas. Here in the THV 11 Weather Department, we were looking at the ingredients coming together for the potential that there was going to be some spicy storms. We were going to see severe weather. But let's advance this here as we get closer to the date. Later for that day, Monday afternoon, they decided to go ahead and issue a moderate risk. So this is a level 4 out of 5 when it comes to severe weather potential, and you can see the bullseye was right over the Mid-South. Memphis into Paducah, Kentucky, small sliver Indiana, Illinois, and also eastern parts of the state. And here at THV 11, we told you the greatest threat would primarily be East Arkansas. Now let's take a look at what happened on the day of. They actually bumped it up from a moderate risk to a high risk, a level 5 out of 5. And when you see something like this, you really want to pay special attention, because the Storm Prediction Center only issues a 5 out of 5 or a high risk about 2, maybe 3 times a year. So this was a significant event that was going to unfold here in Arkansas. On the upper right part of this 4-panel screen, that is the tornado outlook, and we have a tornado outlook of, looks like 30%. And something like that means there's a 30% chance there could be a tornado within 25 miles of a point of that high-risk zone. The other one in the lower right-hand corner, that is your hail outlook, and then the one in the lower left-hand corner, that is your wind outlook. Where you see the dashed areas, that means it could be a significant tornado. And as we discussed, we were talking about, yes, there's going to be potential of strong tornadoes that day, and there certainly were strong tornadoes, especially in the northeast Arkansas. They even added more of the high risk into more of the state as the day progressed along. So the National Weather Service, the Storm Prediction Center, did an excellent job on how everything came together for that day. And unfortunately, it did come together. So let's take a look at Max 1 now. This is the radar satellite view Wednesday, 7 o'clock in the morning. You probably remember that day. We had lots of clouds, but then those clouds started to break. And we always tell you, when we're in this type of situation and we have sunshine, that sun is adding fuel to the atmosphere. So going throughout the day, 1 o'clock, you see that line of storms, it continues to show brighter colors. But notice what's happening along the Mississippi River. That's where the cells really start to tap into not only the very unstable environment, but there's more wind energy in this part of Mississippi, and that's where they start to form those kidney bean shapes, indicating we have supercells developing. But it was not until we got into the late afternoon and evening hours, that's when things really started to cook up here with these individual supercells popping up. This line of rain making its way into central Arkansas. So we're watching two things here, the supercells in East Arkansas and also that line of nasty storms marching its way through West Arkansas. But there's the supercells, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they pretty much all had tornado warnings along with them. And these supercells made their way into northeast Arkansas, and that's what caused the Lake City tornado. And we've got video of the Lake City tornado because it is just a wild video to see. Fortunately, it was really over a lot of farmland at first, but then it did make its way into some homes, and that is just a wedge tornado. It was an EF3 tornado, almost an EF4 tornado. You can see the power of those winds, flipping vehicles and just leaving homes to absolute destruction. So many people were affected by this, but fortunately, I don't think anyone was killed from this tornado. In Tennessee, it was a different story. There were tornadoes that hit through the overnight hours, unfortunately, into Selmer, Tennessee, actually, and a few people did die in that tornado. But going back to Max 1, we also had the tornado that made its way through Arkansas County, Elmira, and they actually had two tornadoes. One was the EF1, another one was the EF2, because we just had training supercells that made their way through the same area during that evening. So there it is, going into Thursday morning, things started to quiet down and things started to break up. We've got video of the Elmira tornado as well. Not a wedge tornado, but still, nonetheless, it did do damage to people's homes and property. And fortunately, once again, nobody died. I mean, anytime you have a tornado and you have no fatalities, that is something to be very happy about. And people are very fortunate because anytime you have tornadoes, especially at night, those are the ones that are more likely to cause fatalities. Now, we have Rebecca Brown. She did a story and talked to the people of Elmira. So we'll take a look at that story right now.
Families in Elmira sifting through what remains of their lives, grateful for their safety, but mourning the loss of so much as a tornado swept through the area.
You just think it's not going to come, and then it does.
Hearts are heavy in Elmira as the town recovers from Wednesday night's tornado, causing down power lines, trees uprooted, and destroying places generations have called home.
I remember when this shop was built, it's probably, like I said, 77, 78, and it's survived many a storm, but this one here got it.
Jim Coos devastated to see his shop destroyed, as it shares a special kind of love, he says, for everyone who's ever stepped foot inside.
Yeah, we do a little weights, and but we just mainly, it's just a hangout for everybody to come to it. You know, on the weekends, everybody come over, we cook up, hang out.
Dennis Kavanaugh with the National Weather Service says now what's left is to assess the damage and provide answers.
Part of it is documenting it for scientific purposes so that we can learn from past weather events, hopefully to issue better warnings in the future. The other part is part of our job is to document damage so that we can document the societal impacts for weather events as they happen across Arkansas over time.
Despite the destruction around her, Vicki Price says the real prize is they're alive.
Relieved that that we didn't get it worse. I mean, everybody was safe, nobody was hurt, so feeling pretty good about that.
In the face of adversity, Coos says it's the tight-knit bonds that holds a community together.
Everybody's family around here. You know, when you grow up in a town about 180, 85 people, you know everybody here. So it's a small community, but they'll keep it going.
In Elmira, Rebecca Brown, THV 11 News.
All right, thank you, Rebecca, for that report. Coming up here on Weatherwise, we'll talk about the deluge of rain, some of the rainfall observations, not only official observations, but also Doppler radar observations, and also some of the worst weather to roll its way through the metro happened Saturday morning. That was a special type of storm known as a bow echo. We'll talk more about that, all coming up next. Looking back on this event, we knew it was going to be significant. All the weather information was telling us we were going to get socked with a lot of rain. The reason behind that is because we had a stalled out frontal boundary, and that stalled out front was right over the Mid-South. A conveyor belt of tropical moisture was arriving not only from the Gulf, but really the Caribbean. And along with that, we have waves of low pressure, as a trough of low pressure system in the upper parts of the atmosphere really wasn't budging at all. So it was the perfect setup for us to get an abundance amount of rain, and that certainly was the case. When we take a look once again back at the radar and satellite, it's just wave after wave after wave. And with those waves, we had the severe weather potential. But the heaviest amount of rain arrived here Friday night into Saturday. And along with that, we had what's known as a bow echo make its way through Little Rock, the Little Rock Metro. We saw winds of 70 to 80 miles per hour right through Pulaski County and other parts of the metro. I'll get more into that in just one second. But let's talk about these rainfall totals, because they are just insane over the past week from this event. You look at it here, and these are actual observations that reported to the National Weather Service. Over 14 inches of rain pretty close to Hot Springs Village. Somewhere in Saline County, it was over 13.5 inches of rain. Beebe, White County, over 13. Antoine, Pike County, over 13. More of the same, Scott and Lonoke County. Here are the Doppler radar estimates, and there's a corridor of just some very bright colors right down the I-30 corridor through Little Rock Metro and then up to the northeast. And where you see the purples, pinks, and whites, that's the radar estimate saying 10, 15 inches of rain, and maybe even more than that in some locations. I didn't query the data because it's kind of just so far out there that I think some hail contamination got involved, so that's the radar thinking that hail is also heavy rain, so that's why you can get some wild estimates with Doppler radar. But it really still shows the heart of where this heaviest rain did make its way right over Pulaski County, Saline County, Lonoke County, and also into Hot Spring County. That's why we had all that flooding across the region, because the rain had nowhere to go. It just had to drain in the nearest creek, stream, ditch, and then make its way into a smaller river, and then eventually into a large river, and just created a domino effect. And also, with that much rain, it just had to pull into the lowest lying area, and sometimes that was people's yards or in the fields as well. But like I said, there was something significant that happened Saturday morning around 10:30 to about 11:30. Before the final line of storms rolled its way through, it really did pack a punch. Let's go over to Storm Track 11 now. This is old radar data, by the way, but this is what it looked like on the radar on Storm Track 11. We had a line of very heavy rainfall, but I'm going to advance this here, and then we're going to take a look at velocity before we wrap things up. I'm just going to go scan by scan, and you see, yes, that heavy rain makes its way into Little Rock, but you notice this feature. If you look real close, that feature of that heaviest rain is starting to bend out, and it's starting to form what's known as a bow echo. So anytime you see a feature like this, where it's almost like a backwards type C, that's usually indication to meteorologists to say, okay, this is going to produce most likely some really high winds. And that was the case, especially when I show you the velocity here. But that was just almost like a hurricane making its way through Little Rock, and it brought down tree limbs, tree branches. I think we saw a lot more trees uprooted because of all the rain we saw. That really saturated the ground, so the roots of a lot of trees just had nothing to grab a hold to when these winds moved through, and also a lot of trees are starting to leaf out. But there's that backward C. It continued to push its way through Cabot, Beebe, towards White County, towards Prairie County, and continued all the way through Memphis for the most part. So that's the rain part of this data. Now let me rewind this, go back to the beginning, and let me show you the velocity part, because that really tells a story here on what unfolded across the metro. So here we go. This is now about 10:45. You see that brighter blue? That's the winds going towards the radar. The red, that's the winds going away from the radar. So when we take a look at this, the blues continue to get brighter and brighter. Now where you see that much more darker blue pop up, that's the radar detecting winds 58 miles per hour or greater. and that's when the winds really start to kick into gear across West Little Rock. I'm querying this, and I'm getting winds of 75 miles per hour, about 876 feet up. So a lot of that wind energy was certainly down towards the surface, but even as this made its way past the radar, that's why you're seeing the change from the blue to the red, because the radar is this area right here. That's where the radar dome is. So as it passes the radar dome, it changes from a blue to a red, and this red was powerful because this is winds moving away from the radar, 77 miles per hour, and it continued to barrel its way through Jacksonville, Cabot. You see that band of bright red, and it did not weaken. I think it was traveling about 70 to 80 miles per hour as it tore its way through locations east of Little Rock, and even Memphis got hit with this bow echo. So that was hard to predict because it just happened right over the Little Rock Metro just before it got into Pulaski County. We really didn't have much lead time to give you and say, hey, batten down the hatches, this is happening. It just happened pretty much 10 minutes before it moved into Pulaski County. But man, it certainly brought quite a punch with it. So fortunately, we don't deal with that a lot, but bow echoes do happen. And now you know what to look for if you're looking at radar. We're going to wrap things up here on WeatherWise with a special video that you may have seen take off on social media, which featured me and my lovely cat. We'll have more on that video coming up. She's very comfortable back there.
Yeah.
But yeah, because when the tornado hit Little Rock, you know, it was only about a mile away. Mm-hmm. And I had her in the bathroom because I knew it was going to be a bad day. But still, you know, your mind plays games with you. When I saw that hook echo getting pretty close to my neighborhood, it was scary.
Oh, sure.
And the first thing I was thinking about was her.
Yeah.
You know, because I didn't want her to be injured or anything like that nature. So today I was like, I'm just going to bring her in because I knew how serious a situation it could turn out to be.
Was Mary at home at that time?
No, she's at work.
Okay.
At that time.
So remember your pets.
Absolutely. Remember your pets next time we have severe weather. This video has really taken off on social media. I'm pretty surprised how it's taken off. Number one, I am married, okay? I got some questions about that. Number two, my wife, she works in a very sturdy building. So I would actually probably leave here to go there if I had the option to, because it is really safe where she works at. She left before I did, so I was in charge of bringing Sierra to work with me or leaving her at home. And it was just one of those situations where I just didn't feel comfortable. Every model that I was looking at was showing a supercell possibly over Little Rock. And after what happened on March 31st, 2023, seeing that hook echo, seeing that debris ball get close to my house and thinking I could lose my house, one. And number two, if something were to happen to her or maybe the house was demolished and she would run away, I couldn't live with that. So instead of just taking a chance, I decided to bring her here because I knew I could watch her here. I had a crate, so if we had to evacuate here and go to a safe place, I could do it very quickly, or one of my coworkers could help out as well. So don't forget the pets. Anytime you have a tornado watch, especially if it's a PDS watch, a particularly dangerous situation where strong tornadoes will be possible, the best idea is go ahead, get the crates out, get the pets in the crate if you possibly can, because you don't want to waste time looking for the pets. That could be valuable time that you may not have to take your tornado precautions if there's a tornado that is moving swiftly towards your neighborhood. Hopefully, we're done with severe weather, at least for a while. We're still in the peak of severe weather season all the way until we get into June. Thank you for trusting us here on THV 11. We really appreciate all your comments that you have been sending to us that have just been so kind, and we always want to hear your reports and also get your pictures. 501-376-1111 is the best way to get those pictures and videos to us as well. And if you have any ideas what you want to see here on WeatherWise, I've got some other stuff coming up. We'll delve more into what a bow echo is and what causes a bow echo, and we'll be talking to a storm chaser hopefully in the near future. So thanks for tuning into WeatherWise. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you soon.